Go and stand outside any BMW or Mercedes dealer in this country on a Saturday morning and watch what people do. They queue up to pay 30 grand for a badge, then spend the next 3 years arguing with a finance company about it. Meanwhile, 20 minutes down the road, on some independent forecourt nobody's heard of, sits a full-size American luxury saloon with a heated steering wheel, a V6 that'll outlast the finance agreement on the German car twice over, and a price tag that looks like a typo. Nobody in Britain wants a Cadillac. I get it. Wrong badge, wrong size, what happens when it breaks, all of that. That's exactly why they're worth talking about. 4 of them today. Cheap, still findable on UK roads, and every one of them a genuinely better car than what you'd buy instead for the same money. I'm James Carter, 65 years old. 40 of them spent under cars in independent garages in southeast London. I don't sell cars, and no manufacturers ever put a penny in my pocket for anything I say on this channel. I've had 2 Cadillacs through my own ramp in the last year, both owned by blokes who bought them almost by accident and won't shut up about them since. That's really where this list started. Before we get into it, hit subscribe. It's free, and this is exactly the kind of video worth sending to anyone who's about to blow their savings on a used Audi. Now, there isn't exactly a mountain of UK reliability data on Cadillacs because so few were ever sold here officially. So this list is built from 3 things. What owners actually report on the UK and European Cadillac forums, DVSA MOT and recall records for the cars that were sold here, and what I see and hear from the handful of specialist importers and independent GM mechanics I trust. 3 things matter more here than a spec sheet ever will. 1, parts and specialist support, because a cheap car that nobody can fix isn't cheap, it's a project. 2, whether it was ever officially sold in the UK or Europe, because that changes everything about servicing and parts. And 3, running costs that won't shock you, because American and thirsty aren't always the same thing anymore. One more thing before the list. Buying cheap is easy. Keeping any imported or low-volume car on the road without getting fleeced at the service desk is the actual skill. There was a test done last year sending an ordinary European saloon with 1 known documented fault to 10 different UK garages. All 10 found the fault. Fair enough. 4 of them also tried to sell work the car simply didn't need. On a low-volume car like a Cadillac, that problem gets worse, not better, because a lot of places will happily quote you for a part or a job a Cadillac doesn't even need, just because they don't know the platform. That's exactly what the 2026 Use a Car's Bible is for. 19 quid, instant download, 60 days money back, and it walks you through the exact upsells to watch for and the exact words to use at the desk to shut them down politely. Links in the description and pinned in the comments. Right, number 4. The Cadillac BLS, 2005 to 2009. Nobody wants this one because most people who spot the badge assume it's a rebadged Saab 9-3 wearing a Cadillac grille to sell in Europe. And honestly, they're not wrong. That's exactly why it belongs on this list. Here's what that actually means for you. It was built in Sweden, engineered for European roads, and sold new through official Cadillac Europe dealers, so it isn't some gray import with no paperwork trail. It's the right size for UK roads and UK parking, properly comfortable seats, and the diesel version returns fuel economy that would embarrass most premium saloons twice its price. The catch, because the mechanicals underneath are shared with the Saab 9-3 of the same era, you want a specialist who knows that platform, not a Cadillac fan with no GM background. The 1.9 diesel injectors and the turbo are the 2 things worth having checked before you buy. My honest verdict? If you find a good one with service history, it's a proper premium saloon for hatchback money, and almost nobody will recognize it, which some owners treat as a feature. Check the injectors, check the turbo boost pipes for cracking, and get a specialist look at it, not a generalist. A Cadillac built in Sweden. Nobody believes me until I show them. Number 3. The Cadillac CTS, first generation, 2003 to 2007. This one gets overlooked because it arrived in the UK right when everyone had decided German was the only acceptable answer to executive saloon, and Cadillac's European sales numbers were tiny enough that most garages have simply never seen one.
What it does well? Proper rear-wheel drive balance.
A naturally aspirated V6 with no turbo and no particulate filter to worry about on short journeys. No turbo and no particulate filter to worry about on short journeys, and an interior that, in later cars especially, holds up a lot better than people expect. The driving position is low and confident, and parts for the engine and drivetrain are shared with other GM products from the era, so specialists can source what they need without drama. The catch? Because so few were sold here new, panel parts and some interior trim can take longer to source than on a mainstream saloon, and early cars had a reputation for a slightly agricultural cabin compared with the German competition, so check trim and electrics carefully before you commit. My honest verdict? Buy this if you want the driving experience of a proper rear-drive saloon, and don't mind waiting a few extra days for the odd part. Check all electric windows and seats work, and listen for any knocking from the front suspension on full lock. Everyone assumed it needed a German badge to be good. It didn't. Quick favor before the top two. If this is useful, tap like. It costs you nothing, and it puts this in front of somebody who's about to overpay for a used German saloon this weekend, when a better car is sitting 3 spaces down the row. Number 2. The Cadillac SRX, first generation, 2004 to 2009. Nobody wants this because it looks, from the outside, like just another big American SUV that's going to drink fuel and cost a fortune to insure. Look closer, and that reputation doesn't hold up the way people assume. What it does well? A proper, naturally aspirated V6 option, with none of the turbo or particulate filter headaches that plague cheap European diesel SUVs on short journeys. Genuinely huge interior space for the money, and a driving position that's easy to get in and out of, high enough to see over traffic without needing to climb the third row without needing to climb. The third row folds completely flat, which is the sort of thing families only appreciate once they need it. The catch? This is a genuinely large car, so check your garage and your driveway before you fall for the price. And air suspension was optional on some trims, which is worth avoiding on a budget buy, since it's expensive to fix if it's failed. Go for the standard steel suspension cars.
My honest verdict? If you need real space and want to avoid diesel particulate filter entirely, this beats nearly anything European at the same money. Check for air suspension and avoid it if fitted, and check the tailgate mechanism operates smoothly. Space for the whole family and none of the diesel headaches that come with getting it elsewhere. And number 1, the Cadillac STS, 2005 to 2011. This is the one that makes the whole list worth doing, because on paper it sounds like it shouldn't exist this cheap. A full-size, rear-wheel drive executive saloon, sold new against the Mercedes E-Class and BMW 5 Series, and today it costs less than a 5-year-old family hatchback. What it does well? The naturally aspirated V6. No turbo, no particulate filter, an interior that on higher trims genuinely rivals its German rivals from the same era, and a ride quality tuned for comfort rather than sportiness, which is exactly what most owners actually want day to day. Owners on the UK and European forums consistently say the same thing, that once you've lived with the ride and the seats, going back to a stiffer German alternative feels like a downgrade. The honest part, because there's a real trap here. All-wheel drive versions exist, and they're more complex and more expensive to maintain, so unless you specifically need it, stick to rear-wheel drive. And because so few were sold in the UK, insist on full service history, and ideally a specialist pre-purchase inspection, because guesswork on a low-volume car is how people get caught out. Do those checks, and this is, without argument, the most car for the least money on this entire list. Quick runback. 4. The Cadillac BLS, a Cadillac built in Sweden and nobody believes it. 3. The Cadillac CTS, proper rear-drive balance for hatchback money. 2. The Cadillac SRX, huge space with none of the diesel filter headaches. And 1. The Cadillac STS, a full-size executive saloon for less than a used Super Mini. Here's the thing this whole video is really about. There's an assumption in this country that if it isn't German, it isn't proper. And that assumption has nothing to do with how good the car actually is. It's just what everyone else is buying, so everyone keeps buying it. And the prices stay high for no reason connected to the actual car underneath. What actually matters is whether it's reliable, whether someone can fix it when it needs fixing, and whether it does the job you need day to day. On all 3 of those, these 4 do exactly what a German badge does, for a fraction of the money, because nobody's chasing them.
Tell me in the comments if you've owned one of these and how it treated you, because the honest accounts from people who've actually lived with them are worth more to the next person watching than anything I can say. And if there's a Cadillac I've missed that deserves a spot here, name it. I read every comment. If this was any use, hit like and subscribe to British Vehicles. No manufacturer sponsorship, no press cars, just what the trade actually knows. The Bible's still linked below if you'd rather not find out what any of this costs the hard way. Look after yourselves, look after your motors, and I'll see you next time. Buy with your head, not the badge.